My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching in real estate. And today we are going to be talking about some very important statistics that you need to know if you're looking at moving to Alaska. These are going to be statistics where if you're already living here, actually, it's going to make a lot of your experiences probably make a little bit more sense. So I'll give you some clarity there. Before we get started, though, do make sure you give this video a like, subscribe, because I know a significant portion of you don't actually subscribe, and it would really help out quite a bit if you did. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's video talking about the most important statistics you need to know when you're looking at moving to Alaska. Now, one of the first things we're going to look at is just the population in general. There are about 333,583 people who live here in the entire state, which means it is by far the smallest population-wise state in the entire country. Now, this has kind of fluctuated a little bit over the years. More or less, it's stayed pretty stable around the 733,000, and you're going to constantly see an inflow and an outflow of people, and that's just kind of what you expect with Alaska. It's a pretty transitory state, and so you're going to see those numbers kind of fluctuate a little bit, but yeah, it's stayed pretty consistent for the past couple of years, right around that 733,000. Going in a little bit more, looking at just the overall population, looking at age, the average median age is actually about 36 years old. So you really get kind of this younger working class people. That's more or less kind of the population that really gravitates towards here. And just kind of adding to this, 24% of the population is under 18 years old. Again, just kind of emphasizing how much this is kind of a working age kind of a state in general. We see that 64% of the population is 18 to 64. So once you get past that 65 age, you do get significant number of retirees here, but definitely it's not Florida where every other person is there to retire. Alaska is a pretty working age kind of a state, and that's just kind of the nature of the demographics. Now, I would be doing a big disservice to everybody if I didn't talk about the gender demographics we see in the state as well. So the gender demographics, for those of you who are not aware, slants pretty heavily for the women. And what I mean by that is 52% of the population here are men. And what that means is that if you are in the dating sphere, that's going to heavily favor you if you are a woman. As a matter of fact, Alaska has the biggest disparity for the male to female ratio in the entire country, and it gets even more stark once we start actually breaking it down by age a little bit, because the ages, I'm going to go ahead and just read this off here, ages 20 to 24, there are 138 men for every 100 women. So that definitely stacks pretty heavily against men, and the ages 25 to 29 gets a little bit better. It's 120 men for every 100 women. And then once we start getting a little bit higher up, so 30 to 34, we see it goes 113 men for every 100 women. So you can see this definitely disparity in the dating market, if you would. So what I tell a lot of people as they're considering moving up here, trying to figure out the relationship status, because it's like if you're a single guy, just know you're going to be fighting against the current up here, and there's just not going to be a whole lot of eligible women around. So if you're struggling with your dating game already where you're coming from, you might want to sharpen up on those skills, because it's not going to get easier once you get up here, is all I'm going to say about that. You know what? Actually, I will say one more thing here. Keep in mind these stats and these ratios I just gave you, that's the overall population. I unfortunately was not able to find any information breaking it down even further and saying, okay, between the ages of 20 to 24, what's the ratio for those and in their relationship status? So singles in their 20 to 24 that are male, singles that are 20 to 4 that are female. Unfortunately, I couldn't find those stats, but be willing to bet they're pretty similar. All right, let's move on from the woes about the dating market up here. Let's take a look and see what's going on with the income. So what we see is the income, actually the median income back in 2021 was $80,287. Now keep in mind that is household income. So it's a combination of two incomes there, more or less usually. Now the per capita income for the past 12 months was actually about $39,236. So you see the normal income for a person up here is usually around like $40,000 or so, and that's going to be the median. So if you're trying to figure out whether or not you can afford to be up here, just know 40,000 is more or less the median for what you can expect up here. Obviously, if you can get more, because that's you do have the cost of inflation and everything that's being felt up here, and you definitely see it in the grocery store and, well, really anywhere else, but especially the grocery store. Now, let's go and take a break real quick here. For those who've been watching for a bit, you do know that I host a podcast called the Alaskan Journey Podcast, and that's going to be a great resource for you as you're trying to decide if this is Alaska is going to be a good fit for you, because I actually talk with people who've actually moved up here and discuss their stories, the pros, the cons, what they like, what they don't like, and any tips and tricks they have for other people considering doing the same thing. So if this is something you're really thinking about, do make sure you take advantage of that resource. All right, let's go and move on here. Looking a little bit closer at the housing, we see the median mortgage, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, was actually about $1,986. Median gross rent was about $1,279. Just kind of looking at the geography per population, there is about per population per mile was about 1.3, which means that for every 8 square mile, you're going to have about 1.3 people there. So it's pretty low population density. Land area in square miles is 571,022 square miles, which this one's kind of curious because I see it actually went up from a couple previous years, so I don't know what happened there. According to the education, the U.S. Census, we see high school or older. We're seeing about 93% of the population has a high school diploma or greater. Bachelor's degree or older, about 31%. And according to the Department of Transportation in Alaska, there's only about 17,681 miles worth of roads, which compare that to Texas, which has 686,533 miles of roads. So you can see we don't really have a whole lot of roads up here, and you can definitely feel that once you actually start moving around and start feeling the limitations. There's a lot of roads, just long roads going from here to there, but it's not a really interconnected state. You have to use the ferry system or use planes to get to a lot of places. So these have been stats that are going to be very important for you to know as you're making your decisions about Alaska, if it's going to be a good place to live or just a good place to visit. I sure hope it's been useful. Make sure to give this video a like again, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and we'll see you next time.